Hello there. Today we're going to be on the hunt for segregation. The activist groups claim there is discrimination everywhere, but the activist groups think that it is well hidden and we need to look for it everywhere. Well, challenge accepted. You see, folks, segregation is when you divide people up by race or by biological sex. Tell me something. Do you think you could find segregation if you were to look for it on this JPMorgan Chase employee program page? Time's up. If you look closely, you'll notice this group has the race Latino Hispanic. This one, Asian Pacific. This one, Black. And then, for biological sex, we've got a women's group. Now, for those of you concerned about sexual harassment, you also may be wondering how it can help your career to grow professionally by joining a lesbian, gay, bisexual group. It kind of gives new meaning to the term kiss the boss's ass. You think on the concerns of sexual harassment alone, such a group wouldn't exist, let alone be necessary to grow professionally. Now, you may find this odd to find such segregation out in the open on a company website. After all, isn't segregation and discrimination illegal in the workplace? Well, not only is it illegal in the workplace, it's also illegal in recruiting. For example, job advertisements. Title VII of the 1965 Civil Rights Act specifically forbids job advertisements based on race, color, and other protected traits. Homogeneous recruitment is violated by recruiting persons from a largely homogeneous source if the recruitment practice has a racial purpose. So if these racially segregated groups are used to grow professionally, i.e. recruit people for higher positions, because what else does grow professionally mean, then would that violate the homogeneous recruitment? Now, JPMorgan Chase doesn't stop there, because they've had networking receptions for Black and Hispanic. Now, you may argue that outside of the workplace, people have a right to join segregated unions. And of course they do. But scrolling down, we discover that there's a register online, which includes a link to JPMorgan Chase's career section for people to apply for jobs. They do the same thing with women and even have on-site interviews. So it's a little hard to say that this isn't attempting to recruit from homogeneous sources. Now, let's take a look at JPMorgan Chase's Diversity and Inclusion page, where we have pages for Black and women. Are you sensing a pattern here, folks? Now, these diversity pages could just be for native advertising, because as I said, segregated unions are a very popular thing. You didn't think they just went away in the 60s after the civil rights movement, did you? No, they're still here, and they want your money and your union dues. So let's say you've got a Klan newsletter to put out for a feminist group. You could easily find articles from white women, these are quotes, down here are the articles. So down here we could get various white women to get some articles from. And you may say, but there's a man here. This man is only here because he's promoting the segregated union known as feminists. Similarly, we get the same type of branding on the black page. And just to prove my point about segregated unions, let's take a look at one of these articles. So if we scroll down here at the very bottom, we find about the author. Valerie is a member of firm-wide Black Executive Forum, Black Enterprise, an author, and a member of Executive Leadership Council, finally something without black in the title. Founding member of Black Women, of course. Co-founder and board chair of Black Women, again. Noticing a pattern here, you see segregated unions also include magazines and newsletters, and they want content for those newsletters. And JPMorgan Chase has provided these branded pages so that their content can get in those newsletters. Writers are pretty lazy, and if you write the story for them, well, then they can just link back to JPMorgan Chase, where they got the article from, and this way it doesn't look like advertising. But the people in the segregated unions will want to do business with JPMorgan Chase. Now again, if this is separate from workplace and recruitment, there's nothing wrong with it. But JPMorgan Chase has forgotten to keep the two separate and blurred them together when it has its job fair for Black and Hispanic, or its job fair for women, as well as if these resources are to grow professionally as promotions based on race or biological sex. Now some of you are saying, what about the quota? How are we supposed to fill the quotas? Well, for starters, we have to understand where the statistics come from. Because unemployment insurance records relate only to people who have applied for such benefits, it's impractical to count every unemployed person each month. The government conducts a monthly survey called the Current Population Survey. This survey is terrible. You can read through the methodology for collecting data on your own, but the important parts of this are it's only 60,000 people, about 2% of the population. And you really only get one shot at this during 2 years of your life to be counted as unemployed. But that's not bad enough, because the survey is weighted with historical data to inflate it. Oh, and there's one other thing about the survey. You don't have to have a social number to be on it. So if it's not bad enough, the weighting will literally add imaginary people based on each age, sex, cell. Someone as young as 15 can answer the survey for you and count the cat and dog as members of your family. Now, there's no LGBT quota, yet JPMorgan Chase is having an LGBT Pride Heritage Job Fair, which we can see by the on-site interviews. Now, you could, of course, report these things to the Equal Opportunity Employment Commission. But according to the EEOC's filing requirements, employers are required to attempt to allow employees to use self-identification. If an employee declines to self-identify, an observer identification may be used. In other words, the EEOC encourages the Human Resources Department that throws these events to use stereotypes to decide your race, ethnicity, sex, so that the quotas can be filled. So what do you think is going to happen at these diversity events if they simply leave out what they're looking for? Now, for example, let's say I'm trying to fill a woman quota. I may look at this person here and say she has long hair, therefore she might identify as a woman. I could then tell her about our diversity initiatives to grow the Segregated Women's Union. Now, if she's not interested in joining a woman's segregated union, why would I hire her?